Welcome to part 4 of 8 of the Discovering Biblical Treasures mini-series on Hanukkah. We're going to conclude 1 Maccabees in this time together. We start with chapter 13, and we find that Simon, the last of the 5 brothers, becomes Israel's new leader. Because his brother Jonathan, who was leader when we got to the end of chapter 12, was killed, if you remember from the last part. Simon buried his brother Jonathan in the family tomb of Modin. And in 142 BCE, Trypho, who's the one who killed Jonathan, deposes Antiochus VI, making him the king of Asia. Now, when I say Asia, I'm not talking about Oriental Asia. I'm talking about Asia of the Middle East. Simon was in charge in Israel. He was running the revolt. He made an agreement with Demetrius II against Trypho. He figured an enemy of my friend is an enemy of my enemy is my friend. Not sure I'm saying that 100% right. But he makes an agreement with him because Demetrius wants to overthrow Trypho and get back the Seleucid Empire or the Seleucid kingdom for himself. So Trypho and Demetrius II, they go out to war. And Simon takes advantage of this because the citadel that was built by the Seleucids in Jerusalem was still in their hands. Even though Judas Maccabee, way back when, took over Jerusalem, the temple, rededicates it, he still had a Greek presence there. So Simon takes advantage of it. He takes the citadel. And now Antiochus VII comes into the story. He appears on the scene. And he, being king with his own army out there, he supports Simon, making him the official leader of Judea, at least parts of it. But at the same time, Simon renews an alliance with Rome that his brothers had created. So they're open, again, I said this earlier, but I'll say it again, they opened the door to let the Romans come into the Middle East. So the Romans start to influence Judea during the 1st century BCE. This is during these revolts that were occurring. Antiochus II, he eventually defeats Trypho. He consolidates the one Seleucid kingdom, brings it back. John Hyrcanus, that's a Greek name, by the way, Simon's son, becomes the leader in Gezerah. Now, what's important to know about that is that there were Hebrews, there were Jews that liked Hellenism. They liked this Greek influence. They didn't like the oppression, but they liked the culture. And when you see a Greek name associated with a Hebrew, that's what you're seeing, Hellenistic Jews. And there were a lot of them that wanted to stay under Seleucid control because they didn't want to follow Torah, they wanted to follow Hellenism. Eventually, John will become the high priest and the political leader of Judea from 134 to 104 BCE. The important thing, I think that's important in this last part of 1 Maccabees and goes through the whole book. The war was not over when Judas Maccabee rededicated the temple. The revolt's going to continue. It's going to go all the way up to the Roman times. And the establishment of Judah as a nation is somewhat precarious. It's there, but it's surviving because of these alliances made to Rome and to the different Greek factions that were fighting over the Seleucid Empire, or the kingdom, I should say, at that time. And the conflict's going to continue in the Middle East until the Romans invade around 68, 70 or so BCE and basically take control of everything. Was Judah a separate nation? Well, depends which historian you talk to and which historian you read. It is true that the Maccabean revolt did free Jerusalem from Hellenistic control. It allowed the rededication of the temple. So we have the Maccabees, the 5 brothers, and his father, Mattathias, to thank for this time period. But just understand and remember, there were still wars going on. Freedom was not easy. And unfortunately, because of the alliances that the Maccabees made with Rome, Rome is going to come into the Middle East and not have that much difficulty taking everything over. God bless you for listening to this mini-series, part 4 of 8 of Hanukkah. Take care, and I'll see you on part 5. And God bless you. Shalom.